My wife faked an entire affair just to test my loyalty. Hotel receipts, explicit emails, photos with another man. All fake, all designed to break me. When I confronted her with divorce papers, she smiled and said, "Finally, you care." What happened next changed both our lives forever. My name is Daniel, and I'm 38 years old. For nearly a decade, I thought I understood what marriage meant. I believed in stability, in showing up every day, in building a life brick by brick with someone you trust. I'm a senior systems engineer at a financial tech company in Atlanta, the kind of guy who fixes problems before they explode, who maps out every vulnerability in the code before it becomes a crisis. My wife's name is Vanessa. We met at a mutual friend's wedding 11 years ago, one of those stories people like hearing about. She caught the bouquet, I caught her eye, and somehow we ended up talking until the venue lights came on. She was magnetic in a way I wasn't used to. Quick-witted, spontaneous, always pulling me toward experiences I'd normally avoid. I was the anchor. She was the sail. We got married after 3 years of dating in a small ceremony in Savannah with maybe 60 people. No drama, no cold feet, just two people who believed they'd figured out the algorithm for happiness. The early years were good, great even. Date nights that didn't require scheduling, laughter that came easy, the kind of comfort that makes you think you've beaten the odds. But somewhere around year 8, things started to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in the way seasons change when you're not paying attention. Conversations became shorter. Her eyes stayed on her phone more than on me. When I'd suggest we spend time together, a weekend trip, a nice dinner, anything to reconnect, she'd agree, then cancel at the last minute with reasons that sounded legitimate but felt hollow. "I'm tired," she'd say. Or, "Work has been crazy." Or, "Can we do it next week instead?" Next week never came. The real unraveling started on a Tuesday morning that looked like every other Tuesday. Sunlight cutting through the blinds in clean lines. Coffee brewing. The sound of Vanessa's bracelet clicking against the granite countertop as she scrolled through her phone. I was talking about taking our nephew to a baseball game, half joking about teaching him to catch, and she wasn't listening. Not really. Her eyes were somewhere else, her smile a placeholder. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her whole body language changed. A subtle stiffening, like someone had just whispered a secret she didn't want me to hear. The notification preview showed a group chat. "Girls' night. We start at 8. Don't bail." The names beneath it read like a warning label: Jessica, Monica, and Lauren. "Everything okay?" I asked, rinsing my mug. "Perfect," she said, but the word came out too fast, too practiced. For the first time in our marriage, perfect sounded like a lie. That evening, our house transformed into someone else's space. The doorbell rang at exactly 8 o'clock, and laughter flooded in before the women even crossed the threshold. Jessica came first, tall, confident, wearing her divorce-like armor she wanted everyone to see. Monica followed with her corporate smile, the kind honed in HR meetings where every word is measured. Lauren entered last, quiet and apologetic, her eyes never quite meeting mine. Wine bottles appeared. Candles were lit. The playlist shifted to something I didn't recognize. Within minutes, they'd claimed every corner of the living room, and I became a ghost in my own home. I did what men do in these situations. I smiled politely, made small talk, then retreated to the garage where the air still felt like mine. Through the door, their voices carried, sharp, animated, building towards something I couldn't quite make out. Then I heard Jessica's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Men only wake up when they're scared of losing you." The room went silent for a beat, as if everyone was nodding in agreement. I stood there in the garage, hands on my workbench, and felt something cold settle in my chest. That wasn't advice. That was strategy. Later that night, long after the women had left and Vanessa had gone to bed, I found myself standing in our darkened living room. Her phone sat on the coffee table, screen glowing faintly with notifications. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something in me, some instinct I'd spent years ignoring, told me I needed to see. I picked it up. The screen lit up with a conversation thread from the group chat. I scrolled up, my hands beginning to shake. Tomorrow we start for real, Jessica had written. Monica replied, I did it with my ex. Worked like a charm. Lauren's message was just 3 words. Are you sure? And Vanessa's response made my blood run cold. He needs to feel it. Otherwise, he'll never change. I read those words 3 times, trying to find a difference, and trying to find a different meaning, a harmless explanation. There wasn't one. My wife was planning something, and whatever it was, I was the target. Over the next 2 weeks, Vanessa transformed into someone I barely recognized. Small changes at first, the kind you'd dismiss if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention now. I was watching every move like a man watching a system fail in real time. Her phone started living face down on every surface. When I'd walk into a room, she'd tilt her screen away with a fluid motion that looked rehearsed. Notifications would light up, and she'd let them fade without opening them, savoring the mystery. New perfume appeared, something expensive and unfamiliar, too bold for her usual taste. I found the bottle in the bathroom, still wet from where she'd tested it. The scent reminded me of hotel lobbies late at night, of places where people pretend to be someone else. Her schedule filled with gaps I couldn't account for. Late meeting, she'd say. Client dinner. Emergency call. The calendar on our shared app showed blocks of time marked busy, with no details, no locations, just empty space where our life used to be. One night at dinner, she dropped a name casually, like tossing a grenade with the pin still in. Derek from work is actually pretty interesting. I looked up from my plate. Derek? Yeah, she said, swirling her wine. He's funny. Really good in meetings. The way she said funny made my stomach tighten. There was a practiced neutrality to it, a carefully crafted indifference that actually screamed the opposite. That's nice, I managed, my voice flat. She smiled, checked her phone, and excused herself to take a call. I sat there alone with my dinner getting cold and opened the Notes app on my phone. I typed one word, Derek. Then I flagged it in red. The hotel receipt arrived by accident, tucked inside a takeout menu like it had hitched a ride into our house. I found it on the kitchen counter one morning, unfolded it without thinking, and felt the floor drop out from under me. Peachtree Plaza Hotel. Room 847. 2 nights. The dates lined up with a weekend when Vanessa said she had a work retreat. Team building, she'd called it. Boring presentations. I'll be back Sunday. My hands shook as I stared at the paper. The line item for room service. The minibar charges. 2 bathrobes. Everything that suggests a stay wasn't for work, wasn't alone, wasn't innocent. I folded the receipt carefully, then folded it again, making the creases sharp and precise. Then I slid it into my wallet behind my driver's license, where truth goes when you can't speak it yet. That night, I tried one more time to reach her. Normal conversation, simple question. How are we doing? I asked over dinner. She looked up from her phone, gave me a customer service smile. We're fine, why? I don't know. I feel like we're drifting. You're overthinking, she said, the words dismissive and final. I suggested dinner Friday. Nice restaurant, no phones, just us. She kissed my cheek and said, absolutely, I'll put it on the calendar. By noon the next day, she'd texted, client emergency, rain check. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then I opened my Notes app and typed, canceled twice. Derek, hotel receipt. The file was building. The system was corrupting. And I was documenting the failure in real time. 2 weeks later, I found the emails. Not by hacking, not by spying, by pure horrible accident. I'd reached for our shared tablet to check flight prices for visiting my brother, and the screen woke up to her email already open. The subject line sat there like a loaded gun. About last night. I should have closed it. I should have respected her privacy. But my hand moved before my brain could stop it, and I scrolled down. What I read emptied my lungs. The messages were graphic without being explicit, detailed without being pornographic. They described a night at a hotel, the Peachtree Plaza, room 847, with a man named Derek. The body heat in those sentences wasn't mine. The laughter, the whispered confessions, the way the sheets felt, none of it belonged to me. Photos loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like a nightmare assembling itself. 2 pairs of legs tangled in white linen. A man's wristwatch I didn't recognize. A lamp I'd seen in hotel rooms 100 times. The angles were careful, designed to suggest everything while showing just enough. Derek's messages were casual and cruel in equal measure. She loved the way and can't wait to do it again. My vision tunneled. The room disappeared behind the screen's blue glow. I sat there on the couch, reading line after line, watching my marriage evaporate in front of me. The final message hit like a knife between the ribs. Next time, let's make it a whole weekend. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. Something inside me just switched off, turned cold and clinical, the way a system shuts down to prevent further demand. I took screenshots of everything, every email, every photo, every timestamp. I saved them with simple names. Evidence 1, Evidence 2, Evidence 3, and backed them up in 3 places. No emotion, just documentation. By the time Vanessa came home that night, I'd already called a lawyer. The law office was on the 9th floor of a glass tower downtown. Clean lines, soft carpets, the kind of place where lives get dismantled with professional courtesy. The attorney's name was Mr. Holloway, late 50s, gray suit, eyes that had seen this story too many times to be surprised anymore. I showed him everything, the emails, the photos, the hotel receipt, the pattern of lies. He took notes without judgment, asked clinical questions, and laid out my options in terms that sounded like escape routes. No kid, he confirmed. No kids. Prenup? Solid. He nodded, already calculating. This should be clean. Painful, but clean. He slid a manila folder across the desk. Inside were divorce papers, tabs marking where I'd need to sign, a pen that felt heavier than it should. Take your time, he said. Time felt like a joke. But I read every word, initialed every page, and signed my name at the bottom like I was drawing a line in concrete. 2 days later, I packed a single suitcase and moved into my brother's auto shop. The apartment above it smelled like motor oil and honesty, which felt right. I texted Vanessa one line. We need to talk tonight. Her response came fast. Okay. That evening, we sat across from each other at our dining room table like strangers negotiating a contract. I placed the manila folder between us, calm and deliberate. What's this? She asked, though I could see in her eyes she already knew. Open it. She did. Her face went pale as she scanned the first page. Then she looked up at me, and something I didn't expect happened. She smiled. Not a sad smile, not an apologetic one. A smile that looked almost relieved. Finally, she whispered. I stared at her, my mind struggling to process what I was hearing. Finally? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. She set the papers down, leaned back in her chair, and the words that came next shattered what was left of my world. It wasn't real, Daniel. None of it. There is no Derek. Well, there is, but he's married with 3 kids and has no idea I used his name. The hotel receipt? Borrowed from Monica's last trip. The emails? Written by Jessica. The photos? Staged with stock images and some creative editing? My chest tightened. What are you talking about? Her smile widened. It was a test, a loyalty test. I needed to see if you still cared, if you'd fight for us. Tessa said it works. You create a crisis, watch how he reacts, and boom, you know where you stand. The room tilted. Every word she said felt like another blow. You faked an affair, I said slowly, trying to make sense of something that made no sense. To test me. To wake you up, she corrected. You were so flat, Daniel. No passion, no jealousy, no fire. I missed the chase. She gestured at my rigid posture, my clenched fists. This is proof you still care. I sat there frozen as the full weight of what she'd done crashed over me. She hadn't cheated. She'd done something worse. She'd engineered my pain, carefully, deliberately, methodically. She'd built a machine designed to break me, just to see if I'd react, and she was proud of it. I stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen, and came back with a second folder I'd been carrying in my bag. I placed it on the table next to the divorce papers. What's that? She asked, her smile faltering slightly. Open it, I said, my voice eerily calm. She did. Inside were printed copies of everything I'd found. The emails, the photos, the timestamps, all of it. But also something else. A timeline I'd created, documenting every lie, every cancellation, every moment she'd manipulated me over the past month. You wanted a reaction, I said quietly. Here it is. Her face changed. The smile died. Color drained from her cheeks. Daniel, wait. No, I said, cutting her off. You don't get to wait anymore. You built this. You planned it. You executed it. And now you get to live with what comes next. I pointed to the first folder. Those are divorce papers. My lawyer already has copies. You can sign them or not, it doesn't matter. I'm leaving either way. It was a joke, she stammered. A stupid test. I didn't think you'd actually think, I interrupted. You didn't think about what it would do to me to believe my wife was cheating? You didn't think about the nights I couldn't sleep, the weight I lost, the way I questioned everything about our marriage? You just wanted to see if I'd perform for you. Tears filled her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no anger, just a cold, clear certainty. You say you love me, I continued, but love doesn't test. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't build pain just to watch someone break. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Where are you going? She called after me. I turned back one last time. Somewhere honest. And I walked out of the house we'd built together, leaving her alone with the wreckage of her own design. The next 3 months were brutal. Lawyers, paperwork, division of assets, the slow dismantling of a decade spent together. Vanessa fought at first, tried to convince me it was salvageable, sent long emails about therapy and second chances and how she'd cut off Jessica and Monica and learned her lesson. But some bridges, once burned, don't get rebuilt. My brother Kyle gave me space above his shop and didn't ask questions he knew I couldn't answer yet. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Chen, who taught me breathing techniques and helped me understand that what happened wasn't about me. It was about control disguised as love. When someone engineers your pain to test your loyalty, she said during one session, they're not looking for connection. They're looking for power. The words landed like truth usually does, heavy and undeniable. Words spread through our social circle the way these things do. Vanessa's friends took her side initially, calling me cold and unforgiving. My phone filled with messages from people who didn't know the full story, telling me I was overreacting, that couples go through rough patches, that forgiveness is strength. I muted them all. Then something unexpected happened. Lauren, the quiet one from that first girls' night, reached out. I'm sorry, we went too far. You deserve better. It was the first honest thing anyone from that group had said. I didn't respond, but I appreciated that she tried. The divorce finalized in late spring. Clean break, 50-50 split of assets, no alimony because of the prenup. Vanessa signed without contesting. Maybe she finally understood what she'd destroyed. Maybe she just wanted it over. I sold the house, moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Midtown with a balcony that faced east, where I could watch the sunrise without any association to the past. Started running again, sleeping through the night, remembering what it felt like to breathe without carrying someone else's manipulation on my chest. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Monica at a coffee shop downtown. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, started to turn away, then seemed to think better of it. Daniel, she said quietly, can I talk to you for a second? I almost said no, but curiosity won. We sat at a corner table, and she stared into her latte like it held answers. Vanessa isn't doing well, she finally said. I didn't respond. She's been going through a lot. Lost her job last month. Some posts from the girls' night got leaked online. Screenshots of the group chat where we planned the whole thing. Her company saw them, said it reflected poorly on her judgment. I sipped my coffee and waited. Jessica and I stopped talking to her, Monica continued. It got too toxic. She kept blaming us for what happened, saying we ruined her marriage. But, she looked up at me, we didn't ruin anything. She did. We just gave her the matches. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you were right, she said simply. What we did was cruel. We dressed it up as empowerment or strategy or whatever, but it was just cruel, and I'm sorry. It wasn't the apology I needed, but it was something. After she left, I sat there for a while, watching people come and go, living their lives, carrying their own invisible weight. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt clear. Vanessa had made choices. Those choices had consequences. Not because I sought revenge, but because actions have natural outcomes when you strip away the justifications. She'd built a fire to test me, and it burned her life down instead. That's not karma as revenge. That's just cause and effect. A year after the divorce, I met someone named Rachel at a community coding workshop. She taught web design to kids on weekends, and something about the way she explained concepts, patient, genuine, without hidden agendas, made me want to know her better. We got coffee, then dinner, then a weekend hike where we talked about everything except my past, because she didn't push and I wasn't ready. On our fourth date, she asked the question I'd been avoiding. So, why did your marriage end? I could have lied, could have kept it vague, but something about Rachel's openness made me want to match it. I told her the whole story, the fake affair, the loyalty test, the divorce, everything. She listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to sadness to something like quiet anger. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. "That's not love," she finally said. "That's control." "I know. Are you okay now?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I'm getting there." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in 2 years, I believed someone when they said that. Here's what I wish I'd known earlier, what I'd tell any man or woman facing something similar. Love doesn't test, it trusts. If someone needs to break you to prove you care, they don't want connection. They want control. Real love doesn't engineer crises to measure reactions. It builds safety, not experiments. Boundaries aren't cruel, they're necessary. Walking away from someone who manipulates you isn't abandonment. It's self-preservation. You're not obligated to stay in relationships that require you to perform pain to prove devotion. Time invested isn't a binding contract. 10 years together doesn't mean you owe 10 more. Sunk cost fallacy applies to relationships just like anything else. Past time spent isn't a reason to sacrifice future peace. Your mental health matters. Therapy isn't weakness. Asking for help isn't failure. Learning to breathe through panic, to name your pain, to rebuild your sense of self, that's strength. Actions have consequences. Vanessa didn't lose her marriage because I was unforgiving. She lost it because she chose manipulation over honesty. The fallout she experienced afterward wasn't my revenge. It was the natural result of her choices being exposed to daylight. I'm 39 now, single, stable, sleeping through the night. I have a therapist I trust, a brother who gave me space to fall apart, and a small circle of friends who proved themselves when it mattered. I'm dating Rachel, slowly and carefully, learning to trust again without expecting disaster. She knows my story. She doesn't try to fix me or prove she's different through grand gestures. She just shows up consistently, honestly, and lets her actions speak. I still work in system security, still fix vulnerabilities before they explode. But I've learned the most important system to protect is the one I live in. My peace, my boundaries, my right to expect honesty from the people I love. Vanessa and I haven't spoken in over a year. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually found a new job, moved to Charlotte, started therapy herself. I hope that's true. I hope she learned something from what happened, not for my sake, for hers. But that's her journey, not mine. Mine is here, in this small apartment with morning light, in therapy sessions that teach me I'm worth protecting, in coffee dates with someone who doesn't play games because she doesn't need to. I learned the hard way that stability isn't boring. It's the foundation everything else is built on, that showing up every day isn't flat. It's love in its most honest form, that the right person doesn't need you to prove yourself through pain. They just need you to be real. And I'm finally, after everything, learning how to do that again. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more real-life stories about betrayal, boundaries, and building back better. Drop a like if you believe trust should never be a test, and comment below what you would have done in my situation. Share this with someone who needs to hear that walking away from manipulation isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.